have a video that's kind of exciting actually. I recently, well this morning, I acquired the COPIC Gasenfude airbrush pen, which has just been released by COPIC and the two corporation. And I got this on eBay and it did come from Japan. As far as I'm aware, can't get any focus. As far as I'm aware, you can't actually get it on location in the US or England or Europe or anywhere outside of Japan at the moment, but you can order it on eBay to arrive from Japan, and I will give you the link in the description from where I bought it. It's actually very, very similar to the Pentel brush pen. Actually, it has a nylon individual stranded sort of nib rather than like a foam or felt nib, and it's got a really nice sparkly barrel like a lot of brush pens do, Japanese brush pens. The downside to this is that it doesn't have a refillable option, whereas you know the Pentel brush pen does, even though it's quite expensive and runs out very often. It'd be interesting to see how fast the COPIC Gasenfude brush pen runs out, if it's anything like the Pentel brush pen. Also, I want to compare it to the COPIC Multiliner SP brush, which please do not confuse the two of them, because this is my least favourite brush pen. I really don't like the COPIC Multiliner brush stroke pen. And fun fact, I actually recorded all of this video earlier, but it didn't save the footage, so this is why I have like a pre-made. Here's one I did earlier. This is probably my least favourite brush pen that I've ever used. It's so disheartening. The ink in them is super dry, the nibs fray like overnight. It's just the worst. Like, I don't like it, so do not confuse the two of them. Please do not confuse the two of them. Yeah, so another fun fact about the COPIC Gasenfude brush pen is that it's COPIC and waterproof, apparently. So I really hope it is. But it's very similar, in fact, to the Pentel brush pen. If you go faster, you'll get a more broken line. If you go slow and take your time, you'll get a thicker, fuller line. You can do super, super thin lines like that if you are steady-handed, but you can also get like really thick lines as well. The ink is actually slightly lighter in comparison to Pentel's own brush pen. So the one on the left, if you can see that at all, is slightly washed out, very, very slightly. It's not a big noticeable thing, but this is the COPIC pen and this is the Pentel brush pen. You can just see there. It's slightly darker, very slightly darker. But yes, so we will, I've recently drawn these and I just traced over them from my sketchbook. There we go, a little drawing of Zach. I drew one with the COPIC brush pen and one with the Pentel brush pen. And the COPIC one is this one. And it's nice, but I feel like I get thicker, heavier lines with it very easily. Whereas I can get more detail out of the Pentel brush pen. I did have some issues with bristles breaking away and causing a bit of like a frayed look to it. It's so much easier to see in real life, but it did actually sort of flick away a little bit. But it is very nice, and it is really nice to hold. Like, I prefer it. I quite like thicker barreled pens, and its barrel is a lot thicker and nicer to hold than the Pentel brush pen. I will definitely say that. But with it not being refillable and with it having a little bit of an odd fraying brush, I don't know whether I would change my Pentel brush pen. I don't think it replaces it. I mean, it's actually done it there, you can see. I don't know if that's picking it up at all, just a touch. There you go. It frays quite easily and doesn't bounce back as quickly as the Pentel brush pen does. in my opinion. But yes, so this is the Pentel brush pen example. It feels a little bit cleaner, and it could be a case of me knowing how to use this pen now and being a little bit more confident with it rather than this one, which I just got this morning. That could be the reason, but they are both beautiful pens, and I do recommend picking one up if you can. It's definitely worth a purchase. I didn't pay a lot for mine, but it's super nice. And I know that the Pentel brush pen ink can actually sort of crumble a little bit in water. It's not always waterproof, especially with thicker lines. It does take a while to dry, but it's marketed as waterproof. So I'm going to try the COPIC one, which is also marketed as waterproof, and see if it's dry enough yet. I don't think it will be. I'm going to give it 5 minutes. Typically I leave inking quite a while, but I'd like to see how fast it actually dries anyway. And we'll put on a touch of watercolour and some Copic markers just to see how the ink reacts. So I've let these dry off for a little bit. I've left them for roughly an hour, and we're going to test them both with Copic and with water. So I'm going to do the Copic brush first, and the colours I used for Zap Skin are E35, E34 and E13. Actually, I've had to swap out for E33 because my E34 is dry. So I'm just going to do super basic colouring on her, just very flat shading. Yeah, it's definitely Copic proof, works perfectly fine. No ink was picked up with Copic, so that's really good. But now we have to test with watercolour. I don't expect the paper to work well with watercolour because it's Bristol Board. It is ever so slightly picking up a little bit of ink, but it's not affecting the design. So just messing around with watercolour shows that, yeah, it's fine with watercolour. It does lift a little bit with water, like I said at the beginning, but no, I quite like that with watercolour. Works quite well. So now I'm going to do the same with Zach on here, but I'm going to just go straight in with watercolour. Now you see, I've left these the same amount of time to dry, and the Pentel brush pen is lifting ink. I would recommend leaving the Pentel brush pen's ink a lot longer. I've left it for a while, and it's sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Today it doesn't. As you can see, it's not the best with watercolour. It's eaten into the lines a lot here. I would suggest leaving this one a lot longer, but this one's held up quite well, so you can do some very quick sketching with this with the brush pen. Leave it about half an hour and you could go over it with water, which is pretty awesome. So I'm going to remember that for pieces where I am using wet media, and I will probably use the Copic one rather than the Pentel brush pen in that case. So the ink is darker but more water soluble and takes longer to obviously become water resistant. and this one it dries a lot faster, but it's a little bit lighter anyway. So yeah, overall I'm quite excited by the fact that they've brought out a brush pen. I would like to see them do a refillable version in the future. And yeah, so if you've got any questions about it, pop them in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in my next video. See you later.